Hey everyone, welcome to podcast 2 of Project Prakriti. Welcome everyone, and today this podcast is going to be about the name itself. What does Prakriti of a person mean, right? So, just to put it in simple terms, take making a tea. So, your tea is going to have water, tea powder, milk, sugar, and then ginger, flavors, whatnot, right? And each person, whenever is asked to make a tea, the taste is going to be slightly different. It's not going to be exactly the same because the composition is different, right? So similarly, our body is made out of different elements, the Panchamahabhuta, and these 5 elements are the dominance of these elements, and the combination of these elements is what is going to make up your constitution. So today we will be talking to Vaidya Ankita on what does Prakriti really mean. We will be talking a bit of science behind this. It's really going to be an interesting conversation. I'm looking forward to that. So tag along and hope you like this podcast. Catch you soon. Let's all welcome Vaidya Ankita. Today we are going to be talking about Prakriti. So Ankita, what does Prakriti mean according to Ayurveda?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me once again, Anirudh, in this series. Yeah, but before going to get started with Prakriti, I think I would like to give a simple example to our audience so they can better understand what I'm going to talk about for Prakriti. So, audience, have you ever thought about like there are some people who seem calm and content, then there are some people who like get angry easily, and there are other groups of people, they are stressed out or they complain a lot. So why one individual is different from the other one, what makes us unique? So that kind of uniqueness about ourselves can be understood with the help of Ayurveda, uh, and with the help of Prakriti that is mentioned in Ayurveda. So Prakriti is nothing but body constitute or body type that is inherent to human being, and it provides us a unique phenotype. So when we talk about phenotype means observable characteristics about their appearance, their physical status, their behavioral status, etc. So that is Prakriti, uh, to like that helps us to understand about ourselves.
Right, right. So, what determines the Prakriti of a person? So, like when you're born, like during your birth, or is it your karmas? There are so many, factors that may influence it. I'm not exactly sure. So, could you just talk to the listeners about what determines the Prakriti of a person?
So Prakriti, is what is interesting about this. Prakriti is determined before the baby is born. So it is determined at the time of fertilization based on the dominance of dosha among ovum and sperm, and there are different factors that also influence our Prakriti, like mother's lifestyle, mother's food regimen, the condition of the uterus at that time, elements like we have Panchamahabhuta and season. So that are all the things that determines our Prakriti.
Right. So you're saying even the season affects the Prakriti of a person. It's not just this. Okay, okay. Very interesting. Because I was just googling on internet and I just came across this really cool paper which was published in Nature Scientific Reports, where the scientists, they were making an effort to understand if the Prakriti of the person correlates to any genetic polymorphisms or any particular genetic perspective. So there was a very interesting study where what they did was they selected about 3,000 odd volunteers for this particular project, And what they did was they did the SNP. It's called a SNP analysis, single nucleotide polymorphism. So it's a standard method that is used to look at the genetic variation within a species. So when they did all of this, what they found is that they found about 52 SNPs that were very unique to a particular Prakriti of a person. And they also spoke that there is a gene called as PGM1, which is phosphoglucomutase 1. That's a gene that produces an enzyme. So these genes always produce the proteins, and these proteins further correlate to function. So they found that this PGM1 was dominant in a particular Prakriti called as Pitta. And to all the viewers, will be coming to what all of this is meaning. So there was a genetic basis to all of this. So what do you think about this in general? Like, is there a genetic aspect to Prakriti? Because you said that it's determined even before the birth.
Yeah, there could be. Actually, we need more studies like this. And I read about this study, and they said in the conclusion that the phenotype classification of Ayurveda may have the genetic basis. So, if we are saying that it is determined at the time of birth, that might be that it is making our um, genetic like structure, or it can be correlated with genetics, but we need further research, more research for this, because what we are getting to know with this Prakriti, we are getting to know about an individual, about like their behavior and everything. So it should be related to this, but we need more studies.
Yes, agreed. Because yeah, I found a lot of studies, with not just this one, but they were also looking at how Prakriti is related to platelet aggregation. So there are like a couple of papers that I've been looking into. But this is something that needs more research, and I find it really fascinating. This definitely needs more probing and needs more scientific data, because it's all about statistics in the end. You got to show that it is correlates to that particular thing. So yeah, but just to people who are newbies to Ayurveda, who are just getting started, what are the different types of Prakriti that a person has? And is it related to the five? You were saying about Panchamahabhut, the five elements. Is it related to that? So just if you could introduce our viewers to the types of Prakriti.
So according to Ayurveda, we have 7 types of Prakriti. And it is like in this series I'm just talking about doshic Prakriti, that is based on dosha. So when we talk about dosha in Ayurveda, we have 3 dosha: Vata dosha, Pitta dosha, and Kapha dosha. Vata dosha is responsible for movement or any kind of initiation in our body. Or the second one is Pitta dosha. Pitta dosha is responsible for metabolism in our body. And Kapha dosha is responsible for strengthening or anabolism in our body. So we are not going in detail about dosha, because we are more focused on Prakriti in this. But our Prakriti is based on the dominant dosha we have at the time of conception. So according to Ayurveda, we have 7 types of Prakriti. So the first one is Vatic Prakriti. So people who have dominant Vata dosha in them, they are called Vata Prakriti people. Then we have Pitta Prakriti, and the third one is Kapha Prakriti. So in these 3 Prakriti, we have only one single dosha dominant. Now let's go to the other Prakritis. So the other Prakritis where we have 2 dosha dominant. Like the first one is Vata Kapha Prakriti, the second one is Vata Pitta Prakriti, and the third one is Pitta Kapha Prakriti. So now we have covered 6 Prakritis. The last one is Vata Pitta Kapha Prakriti, where we have all the dosha in balance. So this is the best one, because we are talking about all the 3 dosha, and all the 3 dosha are in balance. So that's why it is called the best Prakriti, Vata Pitta Kapha Prakriti. So that's how we have these 7 Prakritis. But what is interesting about Prakriti, that it won't change. It will remain the same throughout our life until the death comes closer. So that is really important to understand, because sometimes we confuse the term Prakriti with the dosha. So Prakriti is different and dosha is different.
Ah, okay. Gotcha. Because this was one of the questions that my dad had asked, like, why do they call it as doshas? Because dosha usually has like a negative term. Dosha meaning something, negative. He was
Yeah,
just curious about why is it referred to as dosha.
yeah. So dosha means is, we can't take the literal meaning like is something related to negative. Dosha means that has the capacity or potential to do the imbalance in the body, but at the same time they are really important to stay healthy. They are really important to have a balance of everything in our body. So dosha, we should not take the literal meaning like something negative. Dosha means positive as well. So when they are in imbalance, then they will cause diseases. But when they are in balance, then they won't cause diseases.
Right. Gotcha. Makes sense. Um, so one of the other questions is, a lot of people who are just new to Ayurveda, anyone who's watching this podcast may be curious to know what their Prakriti is, right? So how does a person get to know what their Prakriti is? And by knowing this, what is the advantage or what is the importance of knowing Prakriti of a particular person?
Yeah. So first, I will like to take your first question, how we can get to know our Prakriti. So there are so many questionnaires and there are so many things that helps us to determine one's Prakriti. So we will cover this part in our upcoming videos, where we will go more in detail about individual Prakriti and what are their characteristics. So we will talk more about in that in our next videos. But the second thing, what is the importance of knowing Prakriti? um, like I said, it won't change. Then you can think, okay, it's kind of a limitation that if it won't change, then what is the meaning of knowing Prakriti? But um, I think I covered this in our first conversation. Ayurveda is a set of guiding principle. That means it gives us a direction. So if you know about your Prakriti, then it gives you a chance to introspect yourself, right? uh, so like if for example, like Vata Prakriti people tends to think a lot, and they will get distracted a lot. So if they know about themselves, then they are working in a workplace, they can ask to their boss or they can ask to their supervisor to involve them in different projects. Why is that? Because that's how they can channelize their energy into different directions. And because they tend to think a lot, they are creative thinkers, so they can use their energy and bring up something new. So uh, in this kind of practice will not get them bored.
Ah, so basically, what I am getting a sense from you is that there's a personalized medicine field that is upcoming. It's personalized to one particular person. So it sounds more like this Prakriti-based approach was a kind of a personalized approach to a particular person based on what tools these ancient people had. So yeah, this conversation was really insightful. Thank you so much again for joining me on the second podcast. I just hope all our viewers have enjoyed this. Again, we are getting a couple of questions in our comments, and please do leave your questions in the comments. We are making notes of it, and as we go through this podcast series, we will get back to the questions to those viewers, and we will cover these particular questions. So just sorry, I apologize if we take too much time to get to your questions or something like that. So thank you everyone. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Vaidyankita, and we will catch you on the next podcast with more fun stuff to talk about. Thank you.